First slide is all about scholar definition. According to Frankie Wilmer and Gerald Alcott in 1997, indigenous people, those people who descended from original inhabitants of their geographic area, who live in a comfortably with their traditional culture and whose political design is often controlled or affected by external forces across the state. So in the first bullet, it says that this means indigenous people are the first people who live in this place na before ang lain tao niabot dali nga place, ang indigenous people is nagstay na gid sila dana. Second bullet is indigenous people continue to practice their unique culture. So they still follow their own tradition bitaw and beliefs, mga language nila, way of life they used to be. Third bullet is this means that indigenous group of 10 don't have full control. So this means ang indigenous people is they do not fully control their own lives and land, because ang government mo mismo ang ga-control sa ilang life, kaysa ang government mo ga-control sa ilang life nga kung unsa ilang angay buhaton, wala sila right nga buhaton ang ilang gusto buhaton. Okay, wala, ang government man mismo mo yung kuandan. For summary, indigenous people are the first people to live in the land, who still follow their own culture and tradition. But their lives and decisions are often controlled by a government or mga line outside powers bitaw nga. Kanang may mga kataas-taasan ba na sila ang miga control dani nga tao, like ang tao nga mga indigenous people is wala sila right nga mag-raise sa ilang mga decision, mga anything. So, ubos naman sila. Ang may mga power mo yung mga ang magbuo, mga government.
Scholars' definitions of indigenous people according to James Andaya, 1996. In the second slide, the letter E, you see there are three definitions of scholars according to James Andaya. First one is living descendants of pre-invasion inhabitants and whose lands are now dominated by others. So, pre-invasion inhabitants refers to the original or indigenous people who live in a particular region or country before the arrival of external groups such as colonizer, settlers, or other dominant populations. These inhabitants had their own distinct culture, language, and way of life, which were often disrupted or displaced by the arrival of this external groups. Also, it says that the territories or lands traditionally occupied by these pre-invasion inhabitants are now controlled or dominated by other groups, often as a result of colonization, conquest, or other forms of displacement. This can lead to issues such as loss of land and resources, cultural suppression, displacement and marginalization, loss of autonomy and self-determination.
Scholar definition of indigenous people according to Ted Gore 2000 people definition. According to Ted Gore 2000, indigenous peoples can be simply defined as groups who lives according to traditions, costume, and practices distinct from the dominant culture. These definitions captures Gore perspective and indigenous people as group maintaining their unique cultural identities and practices. Sumala ni Tidgor 2000 ang mga lumad daw mauni daw sila yung mga grupo nga nagsugod gihapon sa ilang karaan nga mga batasan o estilo sa ilang kinabuhi nga lahi sa naguna nga kultura. So importante daw kaayo ang kalainan sa ilang kultura. Pero bisag simple lang nga ang pangpatinaw, mahimo kining kulang kay wala niya giapila ang pagila sa ilang kaugalingon. So uban pang importante nga bahin sa ilang pagkatao. So pananglitan ang mga inuit nga artik nga nagpadayon sa ilang kaugalingong pamaagi sa pagkuan bitaw pangayam or panghunting ug sa ilang sistema sa katalingban nga nagpalay sa kanila sa ubang mga tao sa ilang lugar.
Ako diri sa Pilipinas nga fit sa definition ni Tidgor. Kay ang Igorot groups, Lumad, Eta, Visayan Indigenous and Palawan tribes. Kini sila nga group mauning example na fit sa definition ni Tidgor. Na sila kagalingon na costume o pananamit o naa sila kagalingon na culture. Na napaka-unique o hantod dron itong pangangalagaan o ipamamana sa Pilipinas.
So my part is about Benedict Kingsbury identifies 4 key elements. So first is self-identification, and second is vulnerability to dislocation or exploitation, and third is long historical connection with the territory, and fourth is aspiration to retain a distinct identity. So self-identification, so the indigenous people need to know themselves. So sila gid mismo makabalo kung kinsa sila, unsa ilang pangalan o unsa ang ilang kaugalingon bitaw, like unsa ilang mapagtuo. Second is vulnerability of exploitation and exploitation. So ang mga indigenous people is naagid sila yung mga kayutaan nga ilahag yun nga mga property, kasi pwede bitaw nga tungod kay indigenous sila pwede na makuha sa uban. So third is long historical connection with the territory. So indigenous people is nasad po sila connected bitaw gid sila sa mga territory, like mga government. So makadawat yapon sa ayuda from government to indigenous people, anak kay na bangata. Fourth is aspiration to retain a distinct identity. So dani nga fourth nga ingon ni Benedict Kingsbury is bisan pag indigenous sila, respect nila ang ilang mga pagtuo, tawag na ilang pagtuo, ilang mga kanang kaugalingon bitaw nga lagi sa inyong kagaling pagtuo, kaugalingon tradition. So that is the Benedict Kingsbury identifies 40 elements to define indigenous people.
Those who inhabited the land first are considered as indigenous people. Emphasize historical periodicity, it means indigenous people are the original settlers of the land before colonization. So sa Bisaya pa is kani daw inhabited the land first are considered as indigenous people, kay mo daw pinakauna nga namuyo sa ilang kipuy-an, like sila yun ang original matagya sa ilang kipuy-an. May mga tas is considered that sila as indigenous people.